So for this review of Spider-Man Brand New Day, I did write out a whole script. So I had a script prepared and, I might just glance at it during this review because I felt like I was kind of giving too much away and I wanted to try to marshal my thoughts a little bit, but I think I don't want to just break down the plot too much for you. So what I will say is go to see this film. Spider-Man Brand New Day is without doubt the best MCU Spider-Man film. And this is where I might lose some of you. Not only is it one of the best Spider-Man films ever made, I think it might even be better than Spider-Man 2. Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2. And I know that's probably where a lot of people will push back, but I think it's that good. I think it's that good because above all, not only does this film have excellent pacing, I didn't think it was too long. Some people thought it was too long. I didn't think so. I kind of wanted more at the end. I was kind of hoping for more. Phenomenal action. And a genuine, interesting mystery. But above all, it's the most emotionally mature MCU film, I think, or superhero film that you're going to see for quite a bit, because it is a very strong personal character exploration for Peter Parker. And Tom Holland just does an incredible job. Definitely his best performance as Peter in any of the films. And just some of the highlights in this movie, the relationship between Peter Spider-Man and Frank Castle, Punisher, is brilliant. And John Bernthal is superbly cast and just wonderful in every scene. And their banter, their love-hate friendship, it's a massive highlight. They're a genuine crime-fighting odd couple in this movie. And he's a wonderful sort of sidekick in this. Now, having said that, there's little things like I didn't understand why Scorpion was in there. The character originally appeared in Homecoming, but I don't know why he was there. He was just sort of there. He's kind of a lower level bad guy. Ultimately, Peter is investigating this body swapping bad guy. So the main, or what you believe is the main bad guy in this movie, is able to possess people, and you've seen that in the trailers. They can become anyone, although they have a limitation, which is the range by which they're able to body hop, jump from one person to the next. And so Peter is up against something very supernatural in that respect. I'll give a spoiler away. I think people know, and I think certainly people in my comment section, again, this is why you should watch the film before you watch this video. Please pause it now and go watch the movie, and then you can go back to this. But I'll tell you who the bad guy is. It is, drumroll, Jean Grey from the X-Men. Now, that was, a lot of people knew that, and that's played by Sadie Sink. And a lot of people knew that already, but some people maybe didn't. But there's no explanation for why an X-Men character is in this film, but she's just there. And they don't mention mutants, incidentally, although Peter is going through a mutation of his own caused by his emotional state and his longing for his old life, his old friends. This seems to cause some disruption in his arachnid DNA. Obviously, he's longing for MJ and Ned, and they are in the film. And how that reunion and their reconnection is handled, in particular, obviously the pain of Peter seeing and being with MJ again, and how that is all unpacked. And I don't want to give, again, too much away, but it is absolutely the most emotionally mature, sweet, earnest, and very moving aspect of the film. And that's one thing that I would say about all of this is mature. These are not, high schoolers anymore. It's dealt in a very mature and adult way, which is quite refreshing. And Peter is a genuinely selfless character who puts those people he cares about before himself, their needs first, and doesn't, so he carries around this personal angst as Peter Parker. That's the sacrifice he made at the end of No Way Home, which was for the betterment of everybody else, that they don't know who he is. And so he gave up his best friend and his girlfriend, and he still carries that and is still heroic as Spider-Man nonetheless. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the film's absolute strengths. So credit to the writers, Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, and director Destin Daniel Cretton. It's a profoundly poignant film in many places, especially also in the resolution with Jean Grey and how Peter deals with that. Again, I'm not going to give too much away. Now, it's been said, and it definitely bears repeating, the action and fight scenes in this film are phenomenal. And what they accomplish in terms of really utilizing every Spider-Man move and set piece you can think of, that you could dream of, really maximizing Peter's or Spider-Man's abilities. And also I just love that the majority of the action happens at street level New York, which is where Spider-Man really belongs. And I feel, again, not giving too much away, but, at multiple times, and in particular towards the end, there is one scene as well where Peter really feels a sense of acknowledgement of just how much he matters as Spider-Man, how much Spider-Man means to people, which again is quite moving, and he really gets a bit overwhelmed by that. So then the Hulk, the Hulk is in this film. So Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner and the Hulk. He really, look, it's mostly a little bit more than a cameo. But it is nice to see the return of the original monstrous Hulk. So there's this device that Bruce Banner uses to integrate, Hulk and himself into who we first saw in Endgame, Professor Hulk. With that device gone, he can turn into monstrous Hulk again. And so Peter creates his own version of this to try to deal with his own mutation, and then, but also they're trying to slap one of these things on Jean Grey as well. So it kind of becomes this, I don't want to call it a MacGuffin all by itself, but it kind of becomes maybe a larger plot point that it should be. But anyway, it's just sort of there. Yeah, I mean, I don't have really too many complaints with this movie. I know people have said, again, the runtime, but I just really didn't feel it. It kind of flew along for me. And then other people have said it kind of feels like two movies in one. I was kind of prepared for that, and I could kind of sense what they meant. There is a point where, bad guy captured, that's sort of it, isn't it? But I was kind of looking at it and going, it had only really been about an hour, 20 minutes, about 90 minutes at that stage, plenty of film to go. And I felt as though what had actually happened was the film discovers another sort of branch point in the narrative, but it's entirely consistent with where the story was really going. And I didn't feel like there was some big, clunky stop in the middle and then the narrative changes. I didn't feel that at all, actually. I felt it was quite consistent. I suppose one complaint I would have would be Yelena Belova, who played by Florence Pugh, who I quite like. I felt that her character went back to being zany, wacky comic relief again, like she was in Black Widow or Hawkeye. This sort of eccentric Yelena. And so she kind of regressed from her into her pre-Thunderbolts self, because in Thunderbolts she becomes mature, she becomes a leader, main character, and she'd gone through a lot of development. And in this, she just goes back to being, eccentric and silly again. And I didn't like that they did that. Yeah, I don't know really what she necessarily added to the film itself. but yeah, there's lots of other things I would like to say, but I just don't want to. I don't want to do something that's like the script I wrote, which was very heavily spoilery. But I will say that, and I do understand the complaint, because Peter doesn't have his guy in the chair, which is Ned, right? He doesn't have someone to be his assistant, his guide, back in the office or whatever. He therefore makes use of an AI assistant, much like Tony Stark did as Iron Man in his Iron Man suit. So now Spider-Man doesn't have an Iron Spider suit, okay? He's using just a regular, a regular Spider-Man suit, but he does have a bit of tech. And I think, you kind of have to allow for that. It is 2026 and people are going to expect, I guess, a character who is quite tech savvy to make use of modern tech. Why wouldn't a superhero these days be making use of something like that? And so but it works, it's not too much. It's not like he's making use of lots of Stark Industries tech or something, because he isn't. There's no Stark Industries tech in this at all. But yeah, look, I mean, it's a really good movie. I'm going to go see it again. Definitely 2 thumbs up. I think this is going to be the best superhero film or comic book film of the year. Brilliant cast. Brilliant action. There's a lot of emotional layers there. There's a lot of depth to this film, and it proves that the MCU can still do it. When they want to, they can really do it. They can really deliver. And with Spider-Man, they consistently deliver the goods. I wish that was the case for other recent MCU productions. Maybe the biggest issue right now is consistency. But I think this film is really very much worth your time, and I would give it 8.5 out of 10. I'm going to get flack, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think it's the best Spider-Man film ever made. And hopefully I don't lose too many of you for saying that, but there it is. I really look forward to seeing it again. Oh, and this film is going to be colossal, because not only is it a Spider-Man movie, and they always seem to do so well, but it's a really good Spider-Man movie. So yeah, we can expect some big things at the box office, and I look forward to talking about that. See you next time. Bye-bye.